Hi, we've reached the end of April. Summer is on its way. So it's time to look at the books that I read in the second half of the month, and I read 7. A couple from the Women's Prize for Fiction and 1 from the Yoto Carnegie list. The first one was from the Yoto Carnegie list, and it was Little Bang by Kelly McGaughran. And this one is set in 2018 in Northern Ireland, just before the referendum on abortion. Abortion is still illegal at the time, in the time the book is set. We've got Mel, who's a studious young girl, a little bit shy. She loves science, and all through the book she's writing an essay on time. And her dream is to go to Cambridge. And then we've got Sid, who's a young lad. He prefers songwriting to studying. Bit of a lad. 2 people you would never think would get together. But New Year's Eve they do. Have sex for the first and only time, and she gets pregnant. And Mel's parents are traditional, and although upset, they will do everything for Mel and the baby. Sid's mum, Lucille, who's a single parent, she suggests another option because she's totally honest with Mel about the difficulties that these 2 teenagers will face. And as for Sid and Mel doesn't want people to tell her what to do. But Sid, she wants to be able to choose her own direction. But Sid, he leaves school immediately, starts work, because he is going to provide for this baby. You've got 2 different points of view. You've got Mel's voice, you've got Sid's voice. And it is a very good book for a school library and the whole issue about abortion. It's well researched, and it doesn't just focus on Mel. It focuses on Sid as well, and the effect everything has upon him. And I enjoyed that. I thought it was a good book for teenagers. Then the next one I read was Fair Play by Louise Hegarty. This came out at the beginning of the month. And it's a book described as a dazzling locked room murder mystery. But it's more than that. It was a book about, for me, it's a book about grief and loss and trying to find answers. I didn't realise what the book was doing until I was over halfway through, if that makes sense. Because the first part, we've got Abigail on New Year's Eve. She always organises a murder mystery party for her brother. And this particularly, she's rented a huge house through Airbnb. And the beginning of the book is her setting the scene. Is putting the red herrings out and the food, and sort of laying the seeds for the murder mystery that's going to happen during the evening. And then her brother Benjamin, him and his friends all arrive. The theme is 1920s jazz age, and the party goes well, everyone has fun, toddles off to bed, but in the morning everyone gets up except Benjamin. And then we go to part 2, and part 2 is almost like one of these Golden Age novels, because we've got the famous detective Auguste Bell and his sidekick Stacker, and this deals with Benjamin's death, and it's like a novel set within a novel, and it's like a locked room mystery. The only people that could have had anything to do with Benjamin's death are the people in the house. There's an Agatha Christie Poirot feel about it, as the investigation uncovers twists and scandals. There's references to the Golden Age novels, and the author's even breaking the fourth wall. It's been described as genre defying, and I have to agree, because I started reading the second part and I thought, hang on, what's going to happen? Why? And then I got it. I got exactly what was going on, and I thought it was excellent. Then I read Feather by Manon Stephen Ross. Again, that came out about on the 8th, I think, 8th or 9th of April. And she won the Yoto Carnegie Medal in 2023. So I picked this one up. And it's a short story, all to do with the effects of dementia, as well as loneliness within a family environment. It's a young adult book. Hugh has a special relationship with his nan. She provides the hugs and the love that are lacking in his household, where it's just him and his dad. It doesn't really seem to explain where his mother goes, but that doesn't matter. He has seems to have no connection with his dad, who just spends his whole time on his iPhone. That's when he isn't grumpy. So Hugh escapes to his nan. And then one day she calls him Johnny instead of Hugh. And Johnny is the name of the brother that no one ever talks about. A nan's brother that no one ever talks about. Hugh's never even seen a photograph of him. And the family never talk about him. And this is a sign that his gran is gradually deteriorating. And, she deteriorates the book until she gets to the time when she has to leave the house. And that's really sad. But she asks Hugh to find out what happened to her brother while she can still remember him, before her memory goes and she forgets him forever. And this school project that Hugh's given over for the summer holidays is just what he needs. And so he and his friends start the investigation into the Second World War, and they discover secrets about Johnny. It's a relevant book for families struggling to cope with an elderly relative who's suffering from dementia. A story of love and about being brave, and it's packed full of emotion. That one is gorgeous. Then I read The Cat Who Saved the Library by Sasuke Natsukawa. Came out on the 10th of the month. And I suppose it's a sort of a sequel to The Cat Who Saved Books, but you don't need to have read it. Nanami is a young girl. She's cosseted because she's asthmatic. Her father, when he isn't working all the hours he can, is very protective of her. She's not allowed to do this, that, or anything else. So every day after school, she goes to the library because she adores books and reading. But then she finds the books are missing. There's gaps on the shelf. The elderly librarian just says, oh, well, it's a library. People are always borrowing books. But Nanami senses that there's something different because of the amount of gaps. And she keeps seeing a shadowy grey man among the book stacks. And then she comes across Tiger, the talking cat that we met in the Cat Who Saved Books. And together they embark on a journey. There's a blue light at the end of the book stacks, and they follow this blue light. And they are taken to a magical place, a magical journey to a sort of dystopian place where books are being destroyed because of the influence they have. This grey man that Nanami has seen in the library wants to burn all books because reading allows people to have imagination. It allows people to feel and understand others. And he wants to fill the world with meaningless, empty volumes. And that sort of almost reminded me today. I mean, we've got so much misinformation around today. And you sometimes feel that you're not being encouraged to think for yourself. The world behind the library is frightening and dangerous. And it's changing every time Tiger and Nanami go, it's changed again. There's a lot in this little book, which on the surface is just a cat and a girl saving a library. It's all about the power of the written word, how it gives us hope, how it gives us ideas and strength. And for me, looking at Nanami's father, you're reminded that once you become an adult and your time's taken up with housework and work and everything else, you lose your reading time. You lose that magic. And without books, it's almost as though a light's gone out in our heart. It's a book that makes you think. And it reminds you to keep thinking for yourself and it was nice to meet Tiger again. Then I read the Margaret Code, and this was a book by Richard Houghton, a debut novel, I think, very much in the line of Elizabeth is Missing. Margaret's 89, she's been widowed for a year, still lives alone in the house that she shared with her husband Arthur, in a street where most of her neighbours have lived for many years, where everybody seems to know everybody else, and there are close friendships, but there's also nosiness and fallings out. And sadly, Margaret is beginning to lose her memory. Her best friend, Barbara, is murdered, and Margaret knows that Barbara told her something important on the day she was murdered, but she can't remember what. Margaret's daughter Shirley is trying to cope with Margaret's illness and the anxiety that's causing. Has mum turned the gas off? Has mum locked the doors? That sort of thing. But Margaret's grandson James, his relationship with his nan is absolutely gorgeous. He supports her, he encourages her. He is her ally when the question of care homes is raised. And these two, gran and grandson, set out to investigate the murder because they know the police have the wrong suspect. Margaret talks to her late husband constantly. We hear Margaret's thoughts through these conversations she has with her late husband. And we learn about her brother Harry that nobody ever talks about either. All the threads knit together perfectly. There's some humorous moments. And you really feel for Margaret when her memory's failing. But it's a lovely book about the relationship between a gran and grandson. Then I read two from the Women's Prize for Fiction, All Falls by Miranda July, which were short. These were both shortlisted. It's described as a Marmite book. You either love it or you hate it. I listened to it on Audible, and it's never going to feature on my best books of the year. Bits of it I liked, bits of it I thought, oh no. Our main character's 45. She's a semi-successful artist. She's married, she's got one child, she's in perimenopause, which has thrown her totally. The fact that she feels that she's reached the end of her life, sort of thing. She's got to go to New York. She plans to go to New York on a work thing for 3 weeks to drive across country. Within 30 minutes of leaving home, she pulls into a motel, and there she stays for 3 weeks, pretending all the time to her husband and her friends that she's actually travelling to New York, is in New York, and travelling home from New York. She spends $20,000 redecorating the room that she's rented. Really? We all do that, don't we? And she has an obsession with a younger man. And there's a lot of sex in this. There's an awful lot of sex in this. Not that I'm prudish, but I've things that she's describing and doing, you think, really? There's also a discussion on motherhood as well. She's got a lot of trauma in her background, this woman, as well, because she suffered from fetal maternal hemorrhage when her child was born. But the room she's created this room to be almost a safe place, where she can do whatever she wants, where she feels safe. There are bits of it I enjoyed, but bits I found just so icky. It's an interesting read. And then the last one I read was Fundamentally by Nusayba Yunus. And this has been described as one of the funny books ever, but again, maybe I'm the wrong audience. We've got Nadia, a young woman who's just gained a lectureship, but has taken a sabbatical to go and work with the UN to de-radicalise ISIS women. Nadia is estranged from her Muslim mother. She's just broken up with her long-time girlfriend. It's a serious topic, this is. And this is why I have very mixed feelings about this book. Nadia's not a practicing Muslim, and her voice, she just comes across as so irreverent. And she seems to be immediately naive because there's no professionalism there. She immediately strikes up a relationship with one of the young women. And the banter between these two women, it's like being on a schoolyard. That there's not that detachment that you would think you'd need in a job like that. And the other UN workers was so childish. Are these the people running UN, really? The author knows something about this. She's experienced it, and I was left disappointed because I always thought it was going to be tackling a serious subject. But I was left, I didn't learn a lot about the camps. And I had I came away with no real insight into the working of the camps. And apart from Sarah, who's this girl that Nadia formed a relationship with, the other ISIS women, they were just names, really. You didn't connect with them. So I don't know. It didn't work for me. So those were the 7 that I read. So I think I read 7 at the beginning of the month. So it's about 14, I think, of this month. My book of the month, it's The Cat Who Saved the Library. A lovely book about the power of books and words. And it was nice seeing Tiger the talking cat again. So that's April finished. Heading off to May. So happy reading. Take care.